right, 9.2, lines of fit. All right, so a line of fit or line of best fit is another thing you might hear. It's a line drawn on a scatter plot that's close to most of the data points. It can be used to estimate the data on a graph. Notice that the line of best fit does not have to pass through any of the data points exactly. Okay? So you wanted to go through the general trend to show what's happening. Where could you draw on the line that would show the general representation of those points? Okay, so it says the table shows the number of people who have attended a festival over an 8-year period. We're going to make a scatter plot of the data and draw on a line of best fit, and then we're going to write an equation of that line of best fit. We're going to interpret the slope of the y-intercept and predict the number of people who would attend in about 10 years. Okay, so it tells you about a graphing calculator, finding the linear regression, that's the line of best fit. It also gives you a correlation coefficient. We're not actually going to be using the calculator to find it, so I'm just going to briefly give you information on this, but I'm not going to walk you through how to find it on your graphing calculator. So the correlation coefficient is the value that tells you whether it's positive or negative correlation. Remember, we talked about that's whether it has a positive slope or a negative slope. And then it also tells you how closely the equation models the data. So the R values can be from anywhere from -1 to +1. And the closer the R value is to 1 or -1, the stronger the correlation. So if I have an R value of -1 or an R value of +1, that means there's a strong correlation. It means the points are pretty close to that line. Whereas the closer it gets to 0, either from this end or from this end, means that the points are going to be spread out a lot more. They're not going to be really close to the line that you're drawing in. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing in our scatter plots. So we'll make our x-axis the year, and our y-axis will be the attendance. Okay, and I'm going to make my scale go by ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to go up by 200s, I think, on my y-axis. 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay, so 200, then 400, 600, 800, there's 1,000. I'm only going to label some of them. We can see what the pattern is. 1,800, there's 2,000, 2,400, and so forth. Okay, so you can scroll back up and look at your paper. We're going to be doing 1, 420. I have it on paper, so I don't have to keep scrolling. So 1 is at 420. 2 is at 500. 3 is at 650. And notice these are all approximations. 4 is at 900. 5 is at 1,100. 6 is at 1,500. 7 is at 1,750. And 8 is at 2,400. Okay, so you can see my general points on there. When you're drawing in the line of best fit, the line that you think is going to best represent this, you want to use a straight edge, and you're going to line up your straight edge so that you have about as many points above as you have below the line. So I'm going to do the best I can on my computer screen. It's not super easy on a computer screen. Let's see. Let's see if it will let me do it. You have to use a straight edge though. It's giving me a hard time with the straight edge held up to it. Let me see. There we go. All right, so we've got something that looks about like that. Mine's probably a little high. I've got a few more points below my line than I have above my line, but it's relatively close. If I were going to do it again, I would probably do it a little bit more because I want about as many points above the line as I have below the line. And I definitely have more points below the line, so I'd probably want to change that up just a little bit, but that's relatively close. You can see it follows the general trend. And so now we need to find the slope of the line. So to find the slope, we pick 2 points, and they don't have to be points that were actually points that we graphed. They just have to be points where we can tell what they are. So it looks like I have the point 1, 400. And let's see, 1200. Okay. Once you have 2 points, then you are able to find your slope. And you can see your y-intercept is maybe a little bit below 200, so maybe 150. So I can say my b is about 150. I can see an approximation, not an exact, somewhere around there. Okay, so to find my slope, I do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I get 800 over 4, which gives me a slope of about 200. Okay, so I can see my slope is 200. I got approximate y-intercept, so I can say my equation is approximately y is equal to 200x plus 150. So I'm able to find an approximate graph there. If you use a graphing calculator, you can get an exact equation, but again, we're just going to be looking for approximations. So let's see what else it asks us. It says to write the equation, interpret the slope and the y-intercept. So our slope says 200 over 1 tells us that we have about 200 people attending every 1 additional year. So that's what my slope tells me. My y-intercept tells me we started with about 150 people. Okay. Then it asked us to interpret the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, we did that. And then predict the number of people who will attend the festival in 10 years. So that's asking us to plug in a 10 for our x. So if I plug in a 10, we have y is equal to 200 times 10 plus 150. So we get 2,150 when I do that math. So that's about how many people would attend in 10 years. Okay. So the next one, it again gives us a table. You would do the exact same thing to find the line of best fit. These are the steps that you'd be able to use to be able to find it on your graphing calculator to get it. But again, we're not going to do that. So we're not going to go through this example because this walks you through how to do it on a graphing calculator. And I'm not concerned that you know how to do that. I'm looking for, can you do the general line of best fit from being able to draw on a scatter plot. Okay. But I do want you to look at the correlation coefficient. It says it's 0.982. That means it's a pretty strong correlation. We know it's going to have a positive slope, and we can see all the points are going to be relatively close to there. Notice we don't have a bunch of points farther out like this. That's because it has a strong correlation. All those points are really close to that line. So I did just want to reiterate what that part of it was. Okay, so again, being able to draw the graph yourself, being able to draw in a line of best fit, finding your slope and your y-intercept, that's what we're looking for in today's lesson. Take a second and write your summary.